try to uninstall myself by swallowing pills when I was in high school. Now, as an adult, I cannot have and pill medicines because it triggers PTSD. New pharmacist shamed me for not being able to take pills, so I trauma dumped on her in a busy pharmacy and got her fired. Am I the jerk here? I, 28F, went to the doctor this morning because I felt sick. Turns out I have angina. My doctor knows I have a hard time swallowing pills due to a traumatic event in my life. I make do when I can't avoid it by dissolving them in water or breaking them down into tiny pieces. So when possible, she tries to find an alternative, in this case, a sort of syrup. It's made for babies, so I just need to take 3 times the dose. I went to a random pharmacy on the way to work. It's full of other customers, but at some point, it's my turn. The lady behind the counter seems somewhat new there. She asked a lot of questions to her colleagues, but I didn't care. I handed her the prescription, my social security card, and my insurance company card. She did something on the computer, then turned to me. "It's for babies," she said coldly. "I know I need to triple the dose. It's easier for me to take the medicine that way." And instead of just giving me that damn medicine so I could be on my way, she snorts. "Yeah, but you're an adult, and you are way over the required weight for the pills. I am around 105 kg/231 pounds, so thanks for the free fat shaming." I try to stay calm, even if I slept badly the last 2 nights. "I know, but I want the liquid medicine anyway. Just give me the bottles so I can go to work, please." She wasn't pleased but went to look for them, and she came back empty-handed. "We don't have any left, I need to order it. It'll be here on Thursday." As I was considering whether to order them here or try another pharmacy during my lunch break, she got impatient or something. "Don't you think it's childish to not swallow pills at your age?" She said that loud enough the 2 pharmacists around her and a good dozen clients heard her. I blushed quickly but decided for once to push back. I was better at it before I tried to uninstall myself by swallowing sedatives when I was in high school. Sorry, nearly dying makes it hard for me to swallow pills. I said loud enough everyone heard it. Her mouth closed and she turned pale. She stammered something, maybe an apology, I don't know. I took my prescription that was in front of her, the cards, I put everything in my handbag carelessly, and I left. I was twitchy for the nerve. When I drove by the pharmacy a few minutes later, she wasn't behind the counter. I hope that'll teach her a lesson. Don't ask questions you're not 100% prepared to get the answer for. Edit, thanks everyone for your support. I felt so bad leaving the pharmacy this morning, but now I know I've done the right thing. Laughing face. Edit 2. Someone pointed me that angin doesn't exactly translate as angina, as Google Translate told me. I don't have anything heart-related, just lung-related. Edit 3. I can't answer everyone, and I read as many of you as I can. Thanks everyone for your testimony about your struggles. It's good to see I'm not the only one, and maybe it can help others too. I'll complain to the pharmacy, I'll ask my doctor for liquid alternatives, but I'll try all your techniques to help the pill go down. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, I hope she learned to not judge because the world is full of trauma and minds just waiting to explode in her face. OP, for sure she didn't expect that, but come on, it's a pharmacy. It's full of people with diseases and body issues. If you can't be nice to a random woman coming for angina medicine, you don't work in that field. Commenter, I work in a pharmacy as a tech. That was incredibly rude. The only time we ever ask about preference between liquid and pills is when something is out of stock and we think the patient needs the med today. And we ask politely without judging. OP, had she said nicely, listen, we can give you pills today or syrup in 2 days, is it urgent? And it would have been fine. Commenter, good on you for standing up for yourself. And I'm glad you're still with us. OP, thanks. Thankfully, it was a wake-up call for me to seek professional help. Now, I deal much better with the issue. 3. Commenter, ex-pharmacy staff here. It's not her place to judge or question. If the dispensing pharmacist has a question, they can confirm the prescription with the doctor who wrote it. Very unprofessional. Please make a complaint to her supervisor. OP, my doctor looked up the precise medicine to write it down for me, so I can have it. I probably will go back to complain. OP's current medication. Ooch. This one tastes like banana, it says. But it's more like someone never tasted banana, but was asked to synthesize the taste anyway. Uneasy face. Commenter, my guess is that OP is French and pharmacists there have more power to amend prescriptions compared to the US. That extra bit of power often comes with an added attitude on top of the baseline French attitude winking face. Good on OP for standing her ground. OP, you're right, I'm French. Smiley face. Pharmacy school is hard, and some pharmacists don't feel like they get enough consideration from clients /sécurité sociale, so some don't want to be nice to you. But there's a difference between not nice and what happened today. Commenter, was she a pharmacist though, or a clerk preparatrix? A pharmacist might have a role to play double. Checking the prescription makes sense for you given their long training and responsibility. Not like what happened, of course, a clerk less so. OP, honestly no idea. She was behind the counter at the pharmacy. I didn't check for a name tag with her title. She could have asked me or called the doctor since her phone number was on it though. Why do they need your social security number? I don't know how it works in the US, but in France they ask for it every time. Happy face. Social Security in France covers retirement, like the US, disability, like the US, but also healthcare, parental leave, children-related help, etc. The Social Security card OP is mentioning is like a credit card that lets you pay for prescribed drugs with the state's money, in a nutshell. Called a carte vitale, vital card, or life card. Top comment on post. Commenter, I'm sorry you had to tell her why, but good for you for standing your ground. It's insane to me that a pharmacist, or maybe just clerk, depending on the place, would be that mean-spirited. It doesn't affect her job to give you what your prescription said, as if she knows better than you or your doctor. Hopefully the medicine isn't for an emergency, and that you'll be able to get it soon. Update, 3 days later. Update. On Tuesday, after work, I went to another pharmacy with my prescription. The pharmacist, a bit surprised, asked me if I wanted liquid like it was written, or if I preferred pills. I answered that no, liquid was working better for me. And she just gave me what I needed. That is exactly what should have happened with the other pharmacist. On Friday morning, I went back to the first pharmacy. I was nervous because even though I felt within my right to make a complaint about the pharmacist, I didn't like the idea of getting someone, possibly, fired. I waited until it wasn't too crowded, and I went to the only pharmacist I was 100% sure it wasn't the one I had the issue with, a man. So, I was here on Tuesday morning for 3 bottles of medicine, and it didn't go very well. He let out a long sigh. With name, right? Probably. I wasn't paying attention to who she was, I just wanted the medicine, and to go to work. That was name. She doesn't work here anymore. Good, I blurted. He made a half-small laugh, half-huff, while I realized that even if it was I thought, it was a bit rude. And my mom raised me better than that. Maybe? Don't worry, it's okay. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't get any other details, aside from the fact that they had the bottle of medicine I needed in the stock on Tuesday. So the woman was just nasty for, I don't know. I really hope she reconsiders her career path. In conclusion, kindness goes a long way, but don't forget to stand up for yourself. Thank you everyone for your support. 3. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, given as difficult it is to fire someone in France, it must really have been the last straw. OP, my best guess is that she was still on the trial period of her contract, so it was easier to let her go. Or something else happened, and they just didn't mention it to me, because they didn't have to. Story 2. My 25 female parents have chased away every boyfriend I have ever had. How do I prevent this from ruining my relationship with my current BF, 28 male? I was very shy during high school and didn't leave my house unless I had to, so as a result I didn't get a boyfriend until my freshman year of college. After 7 months of dating my first ever BF, I brought him to my parents' house for dinner, just so they could meet him. I had to step away for roughly 10 minutes to help my older sister with her baby, and when I came back, my BF, then 20M, and my dad, old, were having a full-blown fist fight. We managed to stop them, and my BF stormed off without saying anything, while my dad insisted my BF was incredibly rude and disrespectful to him and my mother, and that a guy like that was no good for me, because he just ended up doing the same thing to me. I was shocked that my BF could do such a thing because he had always been extremely sweet, and I've never met or heard of anyone not liking him, but when I called him and told him what my dad had said about what happened, all he did was laugh and say I can believe whatever I want before blocking me on everything. I was deeply disturbed by this, but my mom and sister insisted that he had just shown his true colors and said my dad saved me from an abuser. I reluctantly accepted this, but something about it felt really off. I met my second boyfriend several months later, during my sophomore year. Part of me still felt my parents were part of the problem with my last BF, so I managed to get him to wait an entire year before introducing him to my parents. From the moment she laid eyes on him, every word my mom spoke to him was dripping with fake friendliness and subtle jabs, implying she did not approve of him, which made him visibly uncomfortable. While we were eating dinner, she began asking me what made me decide to date my BF, and asked about other guys and why they didn't work out. Some of the guys she asked about were completely made up. At this point, it was clear what they were trying to do, and I silently vowed to talk to my BF and tell him how my parents were trying to sabotage me. Unfortunately, it didn't get that far, as my dad chipped in and demanded to know how a boy who couldn't support himself financially was ever going to support his daughter. Mind you, we were both juniors in college at this point, and both of us were working part-time jobs, so this question was really insane. He responded by saying he'd already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family and was planning to break up with me when he got home, but he's just going to leave now. Within minutes, he was gone, and I was blocked, again. My parents insisted they did nothing wrong, and just wanted to test his confidence as any parents would, but I pointed out that this was the second boyfriend they chased away, and they didn't do anything to scare off my older sister's husband. I went low contact with them after that, but fast forwarding a little bit, I eventually allowed them to gaslight me into introducing them to my third boyfriend, whom I had met towards the end of my senior year, and basically the same thing happened. I had made it through college unable to find a long-term BF, purely because of my parents. I did meet my current BF, 28 male, 2 years ago, and I have managed to avoid introducing him to my family thus far. If he ever brought it up, I would always have a ready-made excuse prepared to explain why it wasn't possible, which has been pretty easy because he usually only asks about them when planning for major holidays. I have fallen madly in love with him and hope to start a family with him one day, but he recently told me that he can't even allow me to move in with him until he's had a chance to meet my family. I do not know what to do, as I know my parents will make it their mission to break us up if they meet him, but based on his insistence on meeting them, I realize I can't put this off any longer. Usually, relationships end because of something one person in the relationship says or does, and it's incredibly unfair that I always end up single because of things I cannot control. I want to tell my BF about my parents and insist that meeting them is a bad idea, but I've listened in on some of his conversations with his friends, and the general consensus among them seems to be that a girl with a super dysfunctional family is a massive red flag and an indicator of what their married life would be like. So I come here asking, how do I approach the problem that is my parents without risking losing the longest relationship I've ever had? If my parents end up being the cause of yet another breakup, I just don't know what I'll do. I just don't know. Edit. Wow, I made this post about an hour before going to bed, but woke up to quite a few comments here. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped me realize what I need to do. I've read through all of the comments and saw some recurring questions come up that I wanted to address. I am not fully no contact with my parents primarily because they helped me a lot financially during college and when I first graduated and was looking for a job. When I went low contact with them, they constantly yelled at me for being ungrateful and said family does not turn on each other over minor disagreement involving boys. It sounds ridiculous when I type it here, but after months of this treatment, when I found myself faced with the decision to either tell them I forgive them so they'll pay for my dorm room or refuse to forgive them and have to move back home, I ended up caving. Why didn't I stand up for my past BFs when I saw them being verbally abused? I don't know. I've never been allowed to talk back to my parents, so the thought of calling them out while we have company over is not something I realized I could do, I guess. My arguments with them after they ran off BF 2 and 3 were the only times I've ever come into full conflict with them in my entire life. I will be going to my BF's house today after work and will tell him everything. I am terrified he will still want to meet them. Just thinking about it has me shaking at my desk, but you all are right. He has a right to know and make his own decision. Edit 2. I told him and even showed him this post. To make a long story short, he still would like to meet them, but thanked me for telling him, as he always figured something was seriously wrong. My parents host dinners for our family every Sunday, and we will be attending this one. I suppose I'll make a new post with an update afterwards. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Do you know why they've done this? Wrong religion, wrong race? Do they want you to take care of them permanently and never marry? Do they want to arrange the marriage? I think it would help at least a little to know what's going on from his point of view. Parents are crazy is different from parents really want an ex-partner and are going to freak out. OP. I thought that could possibly play a role. I am white, and my first BF was black. But my mom seemed more hostile to BF number 2 and 3, despite both of them being white as well. Current BF is mixed black and white. We aren't particularly religious either, so I know that can't be it. Part of me has considered just telling him my parents prefer something else for my partner, but my parents are racist. Seems like it would be just as bad as my parents are crazy. Commenter 2. I mean, the whole idea of judging you for your parents is dumb. But there are millions of good people with racist parents out there. Can't throw a rock without hitting one. OP. I suppose you're right. I don't think my BF would judge me solely based on my parents given how wonderful our relationship has been so far, but anything that involves them and my personal life genuinely scares me. I just wonder if sitting him down and saying my parents are insane would be enough to put the issue to bed. I know I'm probably making more of a big deal out of this than I should be. I'm sorry, uneasy face. OP might be a victim of her parents' emotional abuse and manipulation. OP, I've been hearing a lot that I am very likely a victim of my parents' abuse and/or manipulation, but even after looking into it, I've never been sure if it applied to me. Throughout high school, I was discouraged from going to social outings or events for various reasons that always made some level of sense, but I was never outright told I cannot. I used to wonder why my sister would do these things when she was my age, but my parents had simply labeled her as rebellious. I've been discussing this with a co-worker today, and she said it's not a coincidence that the moment I stepped out from under my parents' roof, I went from never getting male attention to having a boyfriend in a short amount of time. I am considering counseling based on a lot of the comments I've received here, so I can really break down what has been manipulation and what hasn't. Gotta take things on step at a time, though. Can OP's sister help her talk with her parents? Did OOP meet her BF's family? OP, my sister and I aren't particularly close. We aren't enemies or anything like that, but she has been pretty indifferent to me while she lived her own life. I love my nieces to death and let her take advantage of that, but I doubt she'd be willing to talk to my parents about this with me. I met my BF's family within a few months of us dating, actually. They love me to death, and we spend nearly every holiday and birthday with them and his other siblings' families. Update, 5 days later. I meant to make this update a lot sooner, but since my last post, a lot has happened. I truly appreciate all the comments I received calling me out for hiding my parents being insane from my BF and encouraging me to be honest with him. My BF is pretty involved now, so I guess I should give him a fake name. I will call him Ethan. I sat Ethan down and told him about my parents and how they ran off my previous boyfriends before showing him my original post as many recommended. Fortunately, he did not seem to care that I hadn't told him, but he did agree with many commenters that my parents were more than just insane, they were outright abusive. Although he understood how I felt, he still said he would like to meet them, both to see it for himself, but also because he felt there was an underlying reason for their behavior. My parents have dinner for the family every Sunday, which I have been attending on the weeks that I'm not hanging out with Ethan that day, so we agreed that he would come to the next one. When Sunday came and we arrived at my parents' house, my anxiety was through the roof. Ethan had agreed to leave with me the moment things started to get out of hand, but with my parents that could have easily been as soon we walked through the front door. My parents were surprisingly very nice, though. My dad actually seemed excited to see Ethan, and my mom fawned over her daughter bringing home such a handsome, confident-looking man. I couldn't understand what was happening. Ethan even shot me a look a couple times, as if to silently ask if I was missing something, because my parents were actually lovely. I want to provide a play-by-play of the entire night, but the post would just be too long. The point is, my parents had done a complete 180 from their previous behavior, and it made me look and feel crazy for trying to warn Ethan about them ahead of time. During dinner, my mom said she was so happy to see her daughter had finally found someone who wasn't judgmental and was willing to give me a chance because of the person I am today, because the past doesn't matter. My heart dropped. What was she talking about? Ethan said he does not know about anything in my past that may be cause of concern, and my parents exchanged a concerned look, as if it was rehearsed. My dad asked him why he thinks my previous relationships failed, and he said that he was under the impression they got scared away after meeting my parents. My mother looked at me with disappointment on her face and said, OP, is that really what you told him? I was at a loss for words, but Ethan was not. He said that it's pretty clear they are trying to plant seeds of doubt in him about our relationship, but he is not interested as he knows me well enough to know my character, and that even if there was something serious in my past, parents who loved and supported me, or even just wanted grandchildren, would keep it a secret to avoid ruining my relationship. My dad said he already has 2 grandchildren and motioned toward my sister, who did not have her kids with her that evening. Ethan said my dad must have been very supportive of my sister for her to be able to start a family while he tries to run off any guy I bring home, and my dad's response was very casual, but extremely shocking. He said, of course, she's actually mine. Everyone was quiet for a few moments, until Ethan spoke up and said that now all of the abuse they've only put me through is starting to make sense. My mom said he's spouting nonsense, and that I have not been abused in any way. She then looked at me and admitted her marriage had a rocky start, but both her and my father have moved past that. I was too busy replaying my entire life in my head to say anything. The previous boyfriends, the lack of support for my social outings growing up, the volleyball games I had to have a friend drive me to because my parents were always too busy, the rage I was always at risk of facing if I ever spoke my mind, all while my sister got the opposite. I started to cry, the hardest I ever have. Ethan immediately announced that we are leaving. My dad demanded we stay where we are, so we can clear things up, but Ethan ignored him as he pulled me out of my chair and led me away. My mom screamed at me not to leave, and that this guy was trying to isolate me from my family. I yelled back that if anyone had been trying to isolate me, it was her for my whole life. As we drove back to Ethan's place, my mom sent me several text messages cussing me out, saying one mistake doesn't change the fact that my dad loved, supported, and raised me, and that he would always be my real father. Ethan said he's not my dad, he's an abusive, controlling asshole who is taking his insecurities out on me. I ended up blocking both of my parents' numbers because they were saying some truly awful things to me, both about myself and Ethan. Ethan said he was expecting them to be crazy, but this was far worse than he could have anticipated. He said I need to go into therapy immediately, and that he will pay for anything my insurance doesn't cover. My parents showed up at my apartment twice yesterday to demand I come out and speak to them, but I've been staying at Ethan's all weekend, and will likely be here all week. I'm not sure if this is the update y'all wanted. I had countless people enrage at me for being spineless and not standing up to my parents, and while I had planned on doing so, that's not what happened. I don't know what's going to happen with my parents or where I go from here, but now that the holiday is over, I can spend some time looking for a good therapist. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. One thing I am curious about is, have you ever talked to your sister about how y'all's parents treat you? Does she engage and side with them? Is she just silent and complicit? Or does she not see anything wrong? I think your plan to go low/no contact is a great idea for now, but maybe reach out to your sister and see how she perceived the events of that night and what her thoughts were about previous boyfriends. She could side with them since she has been treated fairly, or she could just be blind to what is going on. Wish you the best. Stay strong. OP, my sister has generally stayed out of my disputes with our parents. Growing up, I never fully wrapped my head around how different things were for us, and she never rubbed any differences in our upbringing in my face. We've never been particularly close, so she hasn't gone out of her way to talk to me about these incidents, which is why I generally have left her out of both this and my last post, but talking to her might be worthwhile. Commenter 2. So your mom cheated on your dad and you are the affair baby, and they treated you poorly because of that? Is that the story, or has my reading comprehension failed me? Maybe you have a great father out there somewhere. 23 and me? Ethan sounds great. The truth shall set you free.